Hey, how's it going, guys? ZDEyE here. So today I definitely wanted to touch on this regarding a very recent rumor, and I strictly say this rumors, this is not a confirmation, that there might be something going on with the Warner Brothers. This actually also includes Ubisoft. So I'm specifically talking about there might be a buyout going on, or at least some kind of acquisition that Sony, perhaps Microsoft, maybe Tencent, maybe Take-Two Interactive, we do not know, of course, who would be interested, or at least who would end up gaining it. So Warner Brothers is actually is thinking about, well, selling one of their studios or perhaps multiple, and that is also including licensed IP. So where, like, you know, what kind of studios would they be interested of selling? Could it be how do you pronounce that? NetherRealm, and also Rocksteady, Avalanche Software, Monolith, and TT Games. You know, there's a very big possibility that they could be on sale, including the IP names such as like Mortal Kombat, Batman, Middle-earth, and I believe Harry Potter as well. And so this will be quite interesting to see where this development will actually come through, like will it go through or not. The same thing actually going on with the Ubisoft. If you guys did not know, a few days ago there's been talks that Ubisoft might be for sale overall, like seriously. Warner Brothers, they're not for sale completely, but they are interested in selling something. Ubisoft is for sale overall. That's insane. And of course, with the recent development that Ubisoft have been going through, well, they've been shit for sure, because all their games, majority of their games, have not been performing very well at all. This is including Assassin's Creed Valhalla, their most successful IP with the recent years. Well, at least with, I shouldn't say recent years, since it's been only the very recent years, it's only been Assassin's Creed Valhalla and a Dawn of Ragnarok. Dawn of Ragnarok definitely underperformed in terms of the sales and what Ubisoft was expecting. Valhalla is actually the similar boat, even though it did somewhat well, but I don't believe it did too well in terms of actually meeting that expectations that Ubisoft would have. On top of that, Ubisoft also has been delaying plenty of their games. Good Beyond an Evil, or whatever they call it too, right? And then there's a Skull and Bones as well getting delayed. I believe the first was supposed to release like sometime in 2019. It got all the way delayed to 2020, then 2021, and now it's presumably coming in 2023. But we can expect it actually sometime soon, actually seeing the gameplay finally, or at least some kind of trailer. And of course they had very big problems with the development. They did not know which direction that they wanted to go with that title, and that absolutely sucks. Assassin's Creed is a similar thing, unfortunately. You know, as of recently, they has not been developing very well. A lot of people wanted to see that the Assassin's Creed would actually come back to its original routes, and to see that it would actually be, well, more of an original Assassin's Creed games. But now, since with the development and with success, of course, the Assassin's Creed Origins and Assassin's Creed Odyssey, well, that's the route that they chose to go with the Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And as such, with the Dawn of Ragnarok completely being a fantasy with the elements of magic, just, you know, going over like through the roof basically with the development, and also underperforming, including that, and that's including, by the way, the reviews, because it did not perform too well, and also very bad timing to be releasing this expansion / DLC for Valhalla. Mainly because, well, Elden Ring completely surpassed everyone's expectations, and I'm sure even from Softwares themselves, including that Elden Ring initially when it came out, it just was in everybody else's minds, and also all over the social media news information coverage on YouTube, Twitter, everywhere you can expect on the internet, and was for the past, what, like maybe a month and a half to 2 months, and period, while that time when plenty of other games were releasing during that time, well, they were unfortunately not going to be doing very well. So yes, this is including Dawn of the Ragnarok, and so a lot of people just did not even bother with the expansion. Including Valhalla actually gave a lot of people bad taste in their mouths, and so they just didn't want to see a bloated game all over again. And unfortunately that's just the case with the Dawn of the Ragnarok, and so as such why it just perhaps didn't meet the expectations from Ubisoft. And of course, now that Ubisoft has pretty much, well, cancelled Hyperscape, and that it was only up for about 2 years, I believe so, almost 2 years, and so it's completely gone now. And like, so what was the point of that? There's also a rumor going on, well, it's pretty much will be coming, I'm not sure why, Pathfinder, I believe that's the name that they're gonna be calling their next sort of battle royale game, more concentrated, looks like kind of Fortnite. Oh my god, yeah, so this is just not going well. X Defiant is another free-to-play game that they've got in works. They also got a few other like roller games and stuff like that. They also got a another, well, it's not confirmed, but it's expected to see that there might be something going on in terms of the Ghost Recon game, even though with the complete failure that was Breakpoint, you know, you'll be kind of questioning it, why would they be making a next one? But still, you know, because Ubisoft also completely like lost, like in terms of the expectations, it was not even met again. I'm talking about Watch Dogs Legion. Watch Dogs 1 and Watch Dogs 2 actually managed to surpass 10 million sales. That's insane. And of course, I can definitely see in a lot of cases why it could have, because Watch Dogs 1 was, well, false marketing for sure. Expectations were through the roof on top of that, and then Watch Dogs 2 actually over time managed to garner to 10 million sales, and Watch Dogs 2 was a better game comparing that to Watch Dogs 1. To say which is the better game for you, well, of course that would be an opinion. Okay, so after that, Legion was coming. On paper was a very big title, a very big game that could have been a very successful game too. And you know, but the expectations and what it was written on paper and actually the execution playing the game, well, that completely failed. Being any NPC, you play as anybody, whoever you want, whoever you can recruit. Unfortunately, well, that did not perform as expected, and at least not as well as expected. Even though after we had, I think it was Bloodline or Broadline, whatever it's called, basically Aiden Pierce making a return with the DLC in the Watch Dogs Legion, even though that was actually summarized a very good DLC, even perhaps better than the original game. Well, not perhaps, in this case, definitely. Unfortunately, after that, few more patches and updates, basically it's been abandoned. So it's like very curious to see where could they go next in terms of the Watch Dogs games. And as such, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, the only reason it is still gonna be getting, well, not Breakpoint itself, but the next game of Ghost Recon. And on top of that, I'm pretty sure there's even another Ghost Recon game that will be a free-to-play game. My god, what's up? I know, I get that Ubisoft wants to get on that money in terms of like, you know, Apex Legends or Warzone like in Call of Duty, and that is so damn successful, or Fortnite. That's why they're trying to make these new free-to-play games, and hopefully that they will garner that kind of attention that these games have, and as such that's why they're doing this. But it seems like it's failure after failure, so I just don't see it ever actually getting that kind of reception. But instead, they should have been just simply concentrating on AAA titles, and instead they are now concentrating on free-to-play games. And look how that first to second game turning out to be. Well, pure disappointment for a lot of us, unfortunately. Like I said as well, Ghost Recon game, why they would even consider making a next one? Because Tom Clancy, that's it. Tom Clancy, that's the reason. Currently, Massive, I think they're actually developing Avatar game that will be coming at the end of this year, and basically they have stopped making any of the Tom Clancy games. First they made The Division 1, then after The Division 2. Unfortunately, The Division 1 and 2 pretty much stopped with the development, and yeah, even though you can still play them, but you know, if there's no new content, why would you? And as such, they're making a next Avatar game, a first-person perspective on top of that, so it kind of makes you wonder, why was that the decision made? Because like an Avatar game, you would definitely expect it to be more or less of a third-person perspective, especially if you want to fly on those mounts and see the beauty of the world. I definitely think it would have been a better option. That's just me though, that's my opinion. But still, after that, I believe they're actually going to be making a Star Wars games as well. But who knows how it'll actually turn out to be. Perhaps maybe by that time Ubisoft might get bought out by some other studio, well, such as like Xbox or you know, Sony or perhaps Tencent. We do not know. Now, Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is a similar. It is an interesting case. NetherRealm, perhaps maybe this would mean that Mortal Kombat will be under somebody else. We do not know. Rocksteady, like, you know, being as a Batman kind of developers themselves, that would be quite interesting to see who they could go under. I actually hope that Rocksteady would go to Sony. I really do. Because this would mean that Sony will have Batman and Spider-Man and a lot of other Marvel's games too. And that's very big deal. You know, Avalanche Software, even though I don't particularly like Avalanche Software, they make always like overly giant open maps, like, you know, open world games that are barren within them and there's just diddly shit to do within them too. But still, I can see the appeal. Monolith as well with the Middle Earth and such. Wasn't Monolith the ones that are making Wonder Woman game, right? The TT Games, I don't think I ever heard of them, but still, like, you know, it would be interesting who could get what. And as such, let's start out from Ubisoft first, because I wanted to, you know, I've actually touched on them a little bit the longest. Who could acquire Ubisoft if that would be my expectation? In fact, I would not mind if Ubisoft would go to Microsoft. Why? Because they perhaps need some games that are third-person perspective, open world games titles, because Microsoft just doesn't have that. And on top of that, I don't care, right? I don't care if, you know, Sony ends up acquiring Ubisoft as a whole. But I don't think they need to, because they're not desperate, and on top of that, they got better games than Ubisoft. It's just a fact, unfortunately, for a lot of you that perhaps deny it. But still, if you want an Assassin's Creed, like a better version of an Assassin's Creed, play Ghost of Tsushima. That's like 10 times better game than any Assassin's Creed games recently came out. And as such, why would they want to make, acquire Ubisoft if they only know how to make subpar games, and yet perhaps maybe they just need more time, and that's when they can make quality games such as up to the par of Sony's exclusive titles. And perhaps that's the case why they should go under the Sony's wings. And if that's the case, they could perhaps make a phenomenal game. They need more time, and so away from the deadline and more, well, budget. And if that's the case, if that's how it ends up, perhaps maybe they end up banking something very special under Sony. Now, of course, if Xbox acquires them, you know, so far Xbox did not impress with any of their games and the releases that, at least exclusively, that came out. I'm sure, yes, we got still plenty of years to wait. That's another problem. Plenty of years to wait. And so actually to see what the games that they will be coming at next, and hopefully it's gonna be good. So far it's been a disappointment. Halo Infinite, look how that turned out to be. You know, even though it got delayed for 1 year, a lot of people said, well, hell, it should have been delayed for yet another year. That's just insane. 6 years of development, even though a live service game gonna be staying for another 10 years. It's like, what the hell were they doing? And anyway, basically afterwards, it's gonna be interesting to see. As such, that's why I don't really care if Sony does or does not acquire Ubisoft. And as such, why it will be interesting to see perhaps somebody else acquires them. If Tencent gets Ubisoft, well, we can say pretty much goodbye to Ubisoft forever. That's just a fact. In my opinion here, I just sprinkled in. Okay, now let's touch about the Warner Brothers studios. I have to clarify one more time, just basically it's not the Warner Brothers of a whole of itself, no. But they are interested, this is a rumor, they are interested to sell perhaps their studios or studio, and also including the IP licensed titles. And that would be interesting. Like, what would there be? Like, who would get what? Tencent, Microsoft, Sony, like what could they get? As I said already, hopefully that Sony perhaps acquires, I don't know, Rocksteady, perhaps NetherRealm, maybe even Monolith, I don't know, of course. But still, I would like to see an IP being bought out by Sony, and will be Batman game, because if that's the case, if this what would actually happen, you can expect a Batman game that will be very big scope and incredible gameplay too. And I'm not saying that Rocksteady actually has failed with their Batman games and stuff, because like obviously they didn't. They made a phenomenal Batman games, and I believe there was another studio that was making Batman games. I forgot the name for a second there, but anyway, yeah, it's gonna be a very big deal. I really hope that Sony will acquire Batman, an IP, so they would actually end up working on the next Batman. And yeah, hopefully in this case they will include the studio like Rocksteady. That would be pretty incredible. Now of course, you know, kind of makes you question, makes you wonder, okay, what about the Gotham Knights? What about the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League? What about these games? Why are they interested in selling these studios or IPs? Now, we don't know, of course, how this will entail. Like, you know, we're still waiting for a Gotham Knights game. It's been delayed for pretty much a year since its initial launch that was supposed to come. Like, at this point, we actually were supposed to be waiting for a Suicide Squad game. Can you believe this? But no, we didn't even get a Gotham Knights game, and yet we're still waiting. It's just insane. But still, it's going to be interesting to find out. I'm going to be curious to see where this ends up. And of course, this may be all complete bullshit too. So, like I said, it is a rumor, it's not a confirmation. Well, anyway, guys, just that I wanted to, you know, have a little bit of a general conversation regarding it and, you know, where everything could actually end up being. It's going to be interesting. Alright, guys, that's all I wanted to share. Like and subscribe. See you guys all, and have a wonderful day.